record on this computer. There we go. All right. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. I'm Carly Endries. I'm Senior Project Coordinator for the North Dakota Brain Injury Network. We hold these webinars every other Wednesday. The one for September 7th isn't on the website yet, but we do have it scheduled. Her name is Lisa McCall, and she's a speech language pathologist. She actually graduated from UND, but has since moved on and approached us about coming back for one of these. And so she's going to talk to us about kind of caregiver support and speech pathology, how they can help support caregivers of survivors of brain injury. And then the rest are all on our website for you there, but wanted to make sure you were aware that we do have one for September 7th. It should be up on the website soon. But yeah, you guys all know the drill for the most part, but if you would like CEUs after today, the recording should be up along with the CEU request, usually by the end of the work day, by the end of the work week, it's up. And then you can make that request and we'll get you your CEUs for today. But thank you for joining us, Heather, and I will turn it over to her and let her take it away. She is going to take questions throughout, so feel free to interrupt her. You can type in chat or you can unmute yourselves. Both Heather and I are very informal, so you just go ahead and ask away, but I'll turn it over to Heather.
Thanks, Carly. So hello and welcome all. My name is Heather Brandt. I work for the North Dakota Department of Human Services with the Behavioral Health Division. My formal title is a manager of community-based behavioral health support services. So I just really wanted to use our time today to talk through a few programs that provide care coordination and peer support services to individuals, along with talking about our substance use disorder voucher and also the mental health program registry and a few other topics. But like Carly said, if through any time you have a question or a comment or anything you'd like to add, please just jump in and interrupt me. I don't mind that at all. In fact, I prefer that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so can you guys see my screen? Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, just a real brief overview of some different programs. I know we have 90 minutes. I don't foresee that that'll take that long, but just jump in with questions or comments at any time. I'd like to start out with the definition of care coordination because that's one of the main services that some of our programs provide. A care coordinator is really that person that provides those referrals and ongoing support for individuals that they need in their communities to stay within their communities. It's available in Community Connect, Free Through Recovery, as well as our 1959 Medicaid State Plan Amendment. And peer support. And then I also want to talk to you about brain injury endorsements for peer support too, if you are currently working as a peer support. But peer support is a person that brings hope by sharing their experiences and promoting a sense of belonging. I think all of us understand and can relate to when we're going through a difficult experience. It's really awesome to talk to somebody else who has also had similar lived experiences to ours. They really serve and establish positive rapport. They serve as a role model. They offer insight that is often unique to individuals' care teams, and they can provide that support focused on advocacy, coaching, and mentoring. And talk about some of the programs that peer support is available in. And we really just see that exploding and growing every day. Just talked to somebody at a public health unit and their peer support, and they were working to grow their behavioral health support services this morning. So just all sorts of really cool places where people are integrating peer supports. A couple of plugs for peer support resources that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have our Recovery Talk, and we also have Call K. And Call K is really unique. We're not going to turn anybody away that calls that line, but it's answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by a trained peer support specialist. And it's a parent who has a lot of lived experience navigating child welfare systems and really has navigated through substance use and mental health while being a parent. And so if you or anybody you know could benefit from that, please call or text anytime. So what do we do as the division and how do we support these initiatives? A large piece of what we do is training. So the division that I work at, Behavioral Health Division, we host trainings designed to foster the skills and attitudes necessary to provide peer support and care coordination. So um, the peer support and care coordination training are a 40-hour in-person training. We did do some different models of that throughout COVID, which proved to be pretty difficult. But if you're interested in these trainings or attending these trainings, you can visit our website. But then in addition to those trainings, we also offer those ongoing opportunities for continuing education. And so through the Brain Injury Network, we're going to be adding a little bit of information to our website around brain injury and those opportunities for those free courses that peer supports or care coordinators can take to really enhance their skills, but also add those additional training endorsements to their resumes. And the really reason for that is people that are providing peer support services, we want to have them be matched with and providing peer support to the individuals that they have the most like lived experience, but if they don't have the exact match of that, we want them to have those skills and attitudes necessary to be able to do that. So if you're providing peer support to somebody who identifies, in recovery from substance use, and you get lined up with a peer who's in recovery from brain injury, and maybe doesn't have the substance use lived experience. Ideally, they'd be matched with somebody else with that very similar lived experience, but that doesn't always happen. And so making sure that people have all the training and skills that they need to be able to do the work. So hard when you're on these virtual settings because I can't see anybody's faces other than Carly. So it makes that kind of conversation feel a little bit difficult here. Certification, we also certify peer support specialists. There's no certification currently for care coordinators. However, if you're working in a program that reimburses for care coordination, there are different requirements around those provider agreements. Okay, so now I'm going to give like a complete shameless plug for not shameless, yes, shameless plug for Community Connect. So Community Connect has been a program that's been in existence for a little over a year in North Dakota. It's eligible for North Dakota residents 18 years of age or older that are having some impairments in areas of their life, such as housing, parenting, physical health, or just like their social or community connections. The application for eligibility is available online. So there's not like, you don't have to go through a human service center or you don't have to go through a human service zone. Anybody can apply for the program. And those applications are processed by my office. And then typically then what happens is throughout the application, the person either picks a provider, so a provider who lives in their region who would provide the services, and then we send that referral to that provider and services begin. Otherwise, if the person doesn't select a provider, we reach out to them and help them with selection of that provider. So I can send these PowerPoints to Carly as well, and they can be sent out. But it's right on our website there along with the application. And then Free Through Recovery. So Free Through Recovery is really the mother program. It's a collaborative effort between the North Dakota Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation and the Behavioral Health Division. It's a program that was designed to increase recovery support services for people involved with the justice system, really with the end goal of decreasing recidivism and improving their behavioral health outcomes. Those referrals are made from their state probation or parole officer. So if you were ever to have contact with a person who is on DOCR supervision, so parole or probation with the state of North Dakota, and they could benefit from these services and Free Through Recovery, again, care coordination and peer support services. Many of our providers within Free Through Recovery and Community Connect are the same. So please have them contact their probation officer and they can get that referral. If they're on federal probation, though, they do not qualify. However, they can utilize Community Connect for those services. So are there any questions on Community Connect or Free Through Recovery or anything I've talked about so far?
Again, you can unmute and chat and talk, or you can type in the chat and I can read your question to the group.
Great. So we have providers in these service programs throughout North Dakota. Some of our goals are really around those rural areas. Where we do find it more difficult. So we have providers in Williston, but it's really hard for sometimes providers to continue to travel to, say, Watford City. So we're really looking at trying to tailor and find providers in smaller regions where they serve maybe only that city. For example, we've done that already in Newtown or Botno or Rolette or Dunseith, or just like those smaller areas where providers, you might have to travel an hour and a half from the largest city to those small towns. And so if you know of any providers that you think would be interested in becoming one of the program provider for either of these programs, I can put my email in the chat and really would welcome a meeting or a phone conversation to talk through that and what that might look like. We have a lot of different opportunities for flexibility as needed as well with our provider agreements. Something else I'm really proud of that just launched a few weeks ago is our mental health program registry. So Senate Bill 2161 created funding for a mental health program registry. And this began just a few weeks ago with having mental health programs begin their registration. So if somebody's looking for substance use services in North Dakota, we do have a list of all substance use providers. However, we did not have this for mental health in North Dakota. So the first phase is given that all those programs need to register, kind of letting us know who they serve and the locations that they serve. If they accept telehealth, they can add insurance information if they want to. They can even put on there if they're accepting new patients. And really what we're wanting this to be in that phase 2 is it will become this front-facing website where anyone can visit it, learn a little bit about how to access mental health services, because I find that people don't understand, most of the time you don't need a primary care referral. You can go to a mental health therapist without any other information. You can just call and get an appointment. And so just wanting to kind of give that 101 as well, and then a database that you'll be able to access and search for providers in your region. It's also going to give us much needed information around like underserved areas, how many people are serving youth, what kinds of treatment programs people are providing, all sorts of neat information. But that also is going to have opportunity for feedback and input from the public. So we've already been getting a lot of questions around addiction programs. Can you add addiction programs? And the answer is, yeah, we're not opposed to that. We just want to get through the first phase of this and get the mental health program up and upstanding like we were asked to do in the Senate bill. So with that, there'll be more information to come. So when it becomes that real front-facing website, we'll be doing a lot of marketing and communications with the public so that they know that's available. So a little bit about, we talked about the mental health program registry. We also have a substance use disorder voucher program. It's often referred to as SUD or SUD voucher. So many acronyms, though I like to spell them out for people. And it was really designed with two goals in mind: that people would be able to choose their providers and we would improve access to quality services. To be eligible for the voucher, an individual should be at least 14 years of age or older. That got changed during our last legislative session. It used to be 18 years of age or older, but as we know, people younger than 18 also struggle with substance use. So the voucher is available for those 14 and up. They should be currently a North Dakota resident. Their poverty level below 200%. We do also process exceptions. So we can review those on a case-by-case basis, usually with a budget, and the individual lacks resources to cover the cost of treatment. So there's flexibility there as well. And really, it served over 4,200 people, and it has all these services covered. The underutilized services are transportation and peer support. Through a slide in here on 988. Don't know if Carly's already had people come in and talk about that at this Wednesday, but 988 is the new suicide and crisis lifeline. I felt like this visual was helpful because a lot of people are saying like, what's happening to 211 in North Dakota? And 211 is not going away. So if somebody, in the past, people called 211 for crisis. If that person does call 211 for crisis, they're still going to end up at the same place. However, if they dial 988, they're going to get routed to a crisis specialist a bit faster. 211 is really going back to its roots, individuals looking for help meeting their basic needs like housing, food, transportation. 988 is for individuals experiencing suicide, mental health, and or substance use crisis. And they give them the emotional support and an attempt to de-escalate situations. And if that situation cannot be de-escalated, they also can dispatch to the mobile behavioral health crisis support. Those mobile health crisis supports are available currently. I believe it's 45 miles from every human service center in North Dakota.
We did get a question in the chat, Heather, that's maybe back a couple slides, but
Oh, yeah.
sorry. With the recent DHS news report, how do providers avoid making inappropriate referrals to SUD voucher over other Medicaid programs?
Yes, thank you, Austin. So basically what didn't get stated in that article either was, our response to having to try to ensure that providers are billing Medicaid when it's reimbursable to Medicaid. There was a new position hired at the Medical Services Division. And along with that should alleviate that. That really falls on the responsibility of that provider as well, Austin. Yeah. Yep. You're welcome. So just a little bit here, I talked about when an individual calls 211, it's routed to that call center based on their cell phone tower. When routed to North Dakota First Link, if all lines are busy, the individual will be put on hold until a line is open. When the individual calls 988, it's routed based on their individual cell phone area code number. When routed to North Dakota First Link, if all the lines are busy, the individual will be routed to another backup center outside of North Dakota. So you can see the importance why somebody having a behavioral health crisis should call 988, not 211. They could be left on hold. So if you're hearing from people that I'm on hold or they're not answering their call line right away, make sure they're dialing 988, not 211. When an individual texts 988, I think the text feature and chat feature is so cool. It just seems like people are so much more comfortable with texting sometimes about difficult topics than they are about talking about them. And sometimes people might be living in a situation or residing in a place where maybe they can't talk out loud. So that text and chat feature is a really neat option. And that's currently answered by an out-of-state lifeline provider, but FirstLink is building capacity to be able to answer those 988 chats in the future. And I kind of briefly talked about this as well. So it works through FirstLink providing that suicide risk assessment, de-escalation and support, and if needed, dispatching that mobile crisis team. Another cool opportunity for providers.
We got a question. Do the mobile crisis teams dispatch all hours of the day?
Yes. Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up question with that, Heather and
yes,
Carly?
of course.
So if we're not seeing that and we're being told differently, who do we go to? What do we do in those instances? We've had several instances in which the mobile crisis team would not deploy based on the hour of the day.
Because it was daytime and so like the team at the Human Service Center wouldn't send their risk team?
Correct.
Okay, I'll follow up on that, Austin. Maybe send me an email.
Certainly. Thank you, Heather.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. Recovery housing. So this was new with new providers just kind of starting to enter into those provider agreements, but just another opportunity to help support people in their journey to recovery. What this does is it covers 12 weeks of rent expenses for eligible enrolled individuals. The eligibility criteria is pretty minimal. We do have providers now enrolling in this in Fargo, Minot, and Bismarck, and then I believe one in Jamestown as well. So kind of gaining popularity there, and we're starting to see more providers. North Dakota doesn't have some states have licensed or regulations around recovery housing, and this we don't have that in North Dakota, like licensed substance use disorder programs. But with recovery housing, if they're receiving our funding, they've entered into a provider agreement which has some basic expectations of that provider. And then I always like to point out the funding page here. It's just an opportunity for you to visit and see what funding opportunities exist in the through the Behavioral Health Division. And then since I know Austin's on this call, I could just ask him to do a presentation on 1959 because he knows so much about it. But I'm going to give a really broad, high level presentation on 1959, really basic. But what it was is it's an amendment to our North Dakota Medicaid state plan. It's not a waiver. So, if you're familiar with waivers, there's so many slots. There's, it can be difficult. This is not a waiver. It's a state plan amendment. It was designed to fill the gaps in behavioral health services that were identified during that 2018 HSRI report. So if you've been in the world of behavioral health for a while, you know that many of these things people needed and they were not available. There was no funding for them. But it offers 12 services that historically there was no reimbursement for. At the top of the chart there, you see care coordination. And the care coordinator is the person, and the care coordination agency is really the person responsible for making the referrals and assisting with navigation to those other services below. Some further visuals to kind of just describe, who's served by the program. And our eligibility criteria. So ages 0 and up, enrolled in Medicaid or Medicaid expansion, poverty level at 150 or below, qualifying substance use, mental health, or brain injury diagnosis, HUDA score of 25 or above, and resides in the community that meets that federal home and community-based setting rule. And then this was the last update I received from Monica. We have July updates, but we are in a marathon with 1959, not a sprint. And so really our goals are around building providers and having more services available for people in North Dakota. And so those are the updated numbers as of 7/31, or 7/1, excuse me. That is the end of my slideshow, but I can take this off screen and we can certainly chat about any of these programs or questions you guys might have in other programs as well.
This is Denise Anderson with Bismarck Burley Public Health. I am just curious to know, recently we have been getting quite a few clients that have been so-called discharged from West Central services that actually do require like their medications given to them daily. And we have just taken on that role of trying to fill a void, but I just am wondering what the reason is behind the discharging of clients. I guess I don't understand.
Yeah. Denise, would you be able to send me an email? Have you communicated with Brad Brown at the Service Center at all?
No, and I'm a regular nurse. I can certainly let my supervisor talk to them.
Oh.
We've just had
Well,
several
just being a
referrals.
regular nurse, I'm glad that you're bringing up things. So, because that is how it works when, I don't know what's going on, but I would gladly welcome an inquiry, and we could, help kind of try to determine how we can do a better job of communicating if there has been any type of systematic or programmatic change at West Central, Denise.
Okay, I
Mhm.
will
Don't
either
be afraid.
myself.
Don't be afraid to email me, honestly.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. And that might be a good idea, Carly, is to get a representatives from the Human Service Centers, maybe to come on and discuss kind
Sure.
of their different programs and how that works as well. That would be
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, I like that idea too. Do you
Yeah.
mind speaking a little bit about the HUDOS? Like just,
Hmm.
I don't know, explain it a little bit, maybe I don't know if everybody knows on this what that is.
Yeah, so a few years ago, the word HUDOS was a very foreign acronym to me as well. But it's basically looking at how a person functions in different domains and how that their abilities. And so initially when the 1915 I State Medicaid Amendment Plan was rolled out, the HUDOS score was 50 or higher. So the higher your score is, the more functional impairment that you have. Somebody with a HUDOS score of 50 or higher is going to have very limited ability. And so when they were talking about, them going and getting a HUDOS done and them getting paperwork and reaching out and finding providers, typically someone with that elevated HUDOS like that isn't probably going to have some of those abilities to do all of those things. And so we were able to lower that HUDOS score to 5, and those people with that score have some impairment still, but not as elevated as it was at that 50. But yeah, that it's just basically a validated tool to kind of determine somebody's functioning. Really broad way of putting it.
No, thank you. I think that was perfect.
Yeah, there's so many acronyms and things that get used in these worlds that I apologize if I did that, because yeah, I've been in those shoes too, where I'm like, what is a HUDOS? What is, so we need to add 1915 I to the dictionary in North Dakota, because I thought that, people email, I want to know more about 1915 L, and I'm like, oh, it's an I, but yeah, here's what it is. And so yeah, I can put a little link to HUDOS topics here as well for you guys.
Heather, my name is Heather and I'm with Options Resource Center for Independent Living. I'm hoping you can hear me okay because the air kicked on in my office.
Oh, we can hear you great.
I hope it doesn't get too loud where you can't hear me. I have a quick question in regards to the HUDAS and things like that you were talking about. We work with individuals with disabilities from birth all the way up through the aging population, and we work with individuals that have a wide variety of disabilities. It could be mental, physical, a history of different things that are going on. We've had individuals that we've worked with that have gone through like the Human Service Center in order to get mental health services, and they have been there for years as individuals who have gone in for therapy or have gone in for medication or different things like that. And they've been there, let's say, for 20 some years because they've been getting these services. Then with the change of the HUDAS or other criteria that has been changed, now those individuals have been dropped and now they don't get their services that they need anymore. And it's kind of frustrating when you've had an individual that's gone for services for 20 some years in order to get those mental health services that they need, and then they get dropped.
Hearing something similar to what I think it was Denise mentioned to me about kind of wanting better, more information around who the Human Service Centers are serving and criteria and like discharge planning, Heather?
Yeah, that's kind of like what we were
Mhm.
wondering too. And I mean, we've even had individual that was getting services, and then a relative of theirs started to get services too. And then the therapist went and said, well, I can't see you with the individual she had been working with for years. And because a new family member came in that she was going to start working with, so she dropped the one that she had been working with for years and then started working with someone new. But it was like this other person needed the services more than anything,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'm on the
Yeah, I would gladly help, you guys connect with people at those applicable human service centers, and hopefully we could kind of help resolve some of those issues that you're, those bumps in the road that you're hitting. It sounds like regarding like communication and kind of.
Yeah, and I've reached
Yeah.
out to the Human Service Center here in our area, and you kind of get a hit and miss with some information that you get, and then you don't know if you're actually going to get the information that you need in
Mhm.
regards to what the criteria is that they're looking for.
Okay.
So we kind of know. And it's just one of those frustrating things where, we want to help individuals that we work with, but then we don't know where we need to go in order to guide them in the right direction.
Yes. Feedback noted. I already took a note for to bring back. So thank you. Heather, what region are you in?
I'm in Northwest North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota is what we serve. We have 26 counties that we cover,
Okay.
but we're based out of East Grand Forks is where our main office is.
Okay. Thank you. Well, and just like a couple other updates with the Department of Human Services. And so the Department of Human Services and the Department of Health are merging in September. There's also a little bit of restructuring done within the Department of Human Services as well that changed leadership and roles and responsibilities. And so with that, we are going through a time of flux and transition as well. And so I know personally myself and professionally, I always appreciate like the open communication. And if you're working with one of our providers in the community, say in Community Connect or Free Through Recovery or Recovery Housing, and you have any feedback or you identify any training or technical assistance needs, please bring those to me, and we can help to build on that and address those concerns or questions that you might have as well. And then with the Human Service Centers, I'll work to help connect and hopefully bridge that gap if one exists.
Heather, is it possible for me to be able to email you in regards to other questions or concerns that we might have in regards to things?
Of course. And if I
Okay.
can't if I don't, if I'm not the right person, I'll route you to the other person.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
And I
Austin.
might have missed your contact information because I jumped on late.
Oh yeah, no, it's hbrandt@nd.gov. And if you ever lose it, Carly has it.
Yes, I sure do. And Austin asked a question, is there any further direction on sequenced funding between FDR, Community Connects, TCM, and 1915I?
Yes. In Austin, are you looking for a visual? Because I'm working on one of those right now as well. But really, we kind of want to look at it like person to person. What does that person need? We don't want individuals having gaps in services. So what we don't want is because somebody's in Community Connect and they get into 1915I, that does not mean that somebody should just drop off from Community Connect. That services and those connection to those services need to have already started and be working before that person, before, if I was a care coordinator, I'd be recommending, discharge from one program to the next. That also looks different in Region 5 versus, Region 3. In Region 5, we have a lot of providers. In Region 3, we don't. And so people could very well be be being served by both programs to meet their needs. And so really, if the person has those needs and they're justifiable and they have things they're working on, goals, we're going to, yes, it is, Austin, I agree. Those are what I'm helping with right now too, is trying to create that visual, but really looking at it like a chronic disease model. So if you think about somebody with diabetes, think about all the different providers they see. And there is some overlap with those providers, but it's what they need to stay healthy, right? And so, what are they working on with that person that's different from what they're working on with that person? Or do they share similar goals, but they have different action steps they're doing with one provider to the other? It's not that simple, but yeah, Austin, I have started something and it's hard for me even as well, but trying to kind of create that visual to show that model of care. They can all work together if need be. We don't want, just because you're approved for 1959, you're discharged from Community Connect or Free Through Recovery, or you're approved for targeted case management, so now you're discharged from this other program. We want to do what makes sense for people. And if we create really rigid policies, that's where things start to not work for people. And so they can work for systems really well, but we want to ensure that our policies work for the people they serve too. Any feedback you have too, Austin, I always like to hear that. It's helpful. Yes,
We got
Debbie?
another question in regards to the mental health registry. Will this include VA providers or only private sector?
Yes, I will put the link in here, Debbie. We sent it out to every single licensed professional in North Dakota. So anybody that has a social work license, clinical psychologist, psychiatrist, marriage and family therapist, professional counselor, because we didn't really have any other listservs to use. So it was sent to everyone. But yes, please register those programs at the VA too. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be really excited for when that becomes public facing, because it's going to have maps and things too. So it'll be cool to look at. Any other questions? Yeah.
Jinx.
And I'll just do another plug for peer support. So peer support is really we've just been watching it grow and grow and grow in North Dakota. If your agency is interested in peer support training, or you're interested in hiring peers, but you don't know, you're needing additional help or technical assistance, or you're not sure how to fund it, reach out and ask, and we can help provide that to you. We have an upcoming webinar that we're just getting put on our webpage for September 9th. And that is really going to be the first of a monthly webinar for peers to attend. So what we do notice is that peers are getting integrated into teams, but they might be one of the only peer on the team or one of two peers on the team. And so they can kind of feel like they're on a ship alone sometimes. So we want to make sure that they're getting the right support, and we're hearing from them, but we're also kind of learning about successes, like what's working in this agency, what's working in that agency, and we're sharing that with each other. And then we did our first peer support supervisory webinar last month, and we're going to be hosting those bi-monthly. And so those will be listed on our peer support website as well, along with any other trainings that we host. But if you have a topic that you'd like to bring, bring to the community, or, bring to peers, or bring to care coordinators, reach out, and we can help connect with those too.
Any other questions before we let Heather get back to her day? She's very busy, as you can see, all the things she's involved in. Appreciate you taking the time today.
Yes, I love my job, and I love getting the opportunity to work with so many of you people too. So thank you.
And you do a great job at your job, so we appreciate you as well.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. I look forward to hearing from you all.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming, and you know how to get a hold of both of us if you need anything. So we will sign off for now.
Thank you.